Athena's army was created in the mythological era, and since that time, the lineage of the Gold Saints has always been known as the most powerful. The knights who wear the golden armors have left their names engraved in history, and today we're going to meet all the Gold Saints from every generation in this video. Hello, Amazon Knights! Welcome to the Sempre Quiz Saber channel, Wes here. And in today's video, we're going to meet absolutely all the Gold Saints from every era and generation that have appeared in the official Saint Seiya manga. Are you curious to meet these warriors? Then comment below with your Zodiac sign and where you're watching this video from. And of course, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and let's get into this awesome video. Number 1, Aries. Starting with the first Zodiac house, we have the Aries Knights. Always known for their wisdom, and for most of the time being the great blacksmiths of Athena's armors. In the classic, we have the unforgettable Mu of Aries, the man with peaceful features, but when he opens his eyes and unleashes his starlight extinction, he erases any specter of existence. Mu was trained by the legendary Scion of Aries, who was not only the great master of the sanctuary, but also one of the only survivors of the Holy War of the 18th century. Alongside Doko, he is also one of the most lethal Aries warriors in history, using the crystal wall and mastering the Starlight Revolution. Moving forward in time, the legacy passes into the hands of the charismatic Kiki, Mu's apprentice, who in the anime Saint Seiya Omega leaves behind his mischievous phase to masterfully take on the Aries cloth, proving himself worthy of his master's mantle. But if we look into the past and at the alternate timelines, things get even crazier. In the universe of the Lost Canvas, we are introduced to Avenir of Aries, a tragic knight who traveled through time from a future where Athena had been beheaded by Hades. He goes back to the past to change destiny, bringing a huge emotional weight to the story itself. And we can't forget about Gateguard of Aries, a knight from the 16th century who ended up betraying Athena alongside the Grand Master of the Sanctuary, blindly believing he was doing the right thing. In the multiverse and in the isekai of the manga Dark Darkwing, the House of Aries is protected by Theseus Gravus, a warrior with an extremely aristocratic demeanor, who further expands the concept of who can wear this sacred golden armor. Number 2, Taurus. Arriving at the second house, we have the physical and moral giants of Taurus. Our dear Aldebaran of Taurus from the classic anime carries the unfair reputation of being a punching bag, since he's always the first to face the enemies. But the truth is that the guy was a real human fortress with his great horn, and he died standing heroically to destroy the Spectre. In the manga, which is the canonical continuation of the classic saga, Next Dimension, we meet Ox of Taurus, a warrior even more intimidating and strict than Aldebaran, also maintaining his guard posture even after death. However, it's in the Lost Canvas that the sign gets its greatest highlight, with an absolute monster called Hasgard of Taurus, who changed his name to Aldebaran. Hasgard is, without a doubt, the father everyone wishes they had. He adopted several orphans, had a devastating attack called Titanic Supernova, and died in one of the most emotional scenes of the franchise, protecting the Pegasus Knight. And among his pupils, the young Teneo, Hasgard's disciple, survived the Holy War. And it was he who rebuilt the Taurus Temple and the entire sanctuary, alongside Zion, years later. Inheriting the Taurus armor with great honor, and in Omega we have Harbinger of Taurus, a troublemaker who loved breaking his opponent's bones, but who has one of the most incredible redemption arcs of all, finishing the series nothing less than as the great master of the sanctuary. And to wrap up, in the darkest corners of the lore we have Francisca of Taurus, from the 16th century in the Lost Canvas, a knight who was a prodigy. And in the dark Darkwing universe, the relentless Ain of Taurus, number 3 twins. In the third house, we enter the realm of madness, betrayal, and overwhelming power. The sign of Gemini most of the time carries some stigma of tormented warriors. And in the classic, the entire Sanctuary saga only happens because of Porin of Gemini, who succumbed to his evil side, killed the Grand Master, and usurped the throne, using his formidable galactic explosion and the other dimension. His twin brother, Canon, was the one who manipulated Poseidon and started another war, only to later have the most epic redemption in the Hades saga. Enduring Milo's attacks without resistance, he sacrificed himself, taking some judges of the underworld with him. In the Lost Canvas, duality is taken to the extreme, like Aspros and Defteros. Aspros was the genius, the candidate for Grandmaster, but his mind was corrupted. Defteros, known as the Demon of Canaan Island, lived in his brother's shadow and was forced to kill him. Later, Aspros is revived as a specter, But in a fantastic plot twist, Defteros sacrifices himself, merging the two souls so that Aspros can fight for Athena again and defeat Ioma of Mephistopheles. In Omega, we had the first female gold saints, the twins Integra and Paradox. Paradox went mad with love and hate for Shiryu and joined the enemy empire, while Integra remained faithful to the principles of justice. In Next Dimension, Master Masami Kuramada was even more creative and bizarre with Cain and Abel, where the curse is not just about twin brothers, but about two minds inhabiting exactly the same body as a cruel joke by the gods. The same body switches personalities, with Cain being the good side and Abel the bad one. And completing the pantheon of twin knights, we have Sojiro of Gemini, making his appearance in Darkwing as the brother of the protagonist, Soichiro of Weaver. Number 4, Wyvern.
Número 4, Câncer.
The fourth house of Cancer is where the knights deal directly with souls in the underworld, using the iconic waves of hell. The classic Death Mask was a pure and sadistic villain who collected the faces of his victims on the walls of his Zodiac house and had no qualms about killing children. He only had his big moment of redemption in the spin-off anime, Soul of Gold. In Next Dimension, we meet the hilarious and surprising Death Toll of Cancer, the Coffin Maker. He is the comic relief of the series, but don't be fooled. His loyalty to Athena is unwavering, and he uses an artifact called Omerta, the Coffin of Silence, to suck in his enemies. Now, if there's a knight who made Cancer legendary, that guy was Manigold in the Lost Canvas. Trained since childhood in a destroyed village surrounded by corpses, he grew up arrogant, foul-mouthed, and incredibly lethal. Manigold did the unthinkable. He invaded the sacred space of the gods and punched the god of death, Thanatos, right in the face with his bare hands. He fought alongside his master, Cancer Seiji, who survived the previous war and became the great master strategist who tricked the twin gods, and both sacrificed themselves in a battle that is considered one of the best in anime history. In Omega, we see Cancer Schiller, a warrior obsessed with controlling zombies and corpses. In the multiverse manga episode G Assassin, we have a brilliant twist, Lancelot of Cancer. Yes, the famous Lancelot from King Arthur's Round Table was reincarnated as the Cancer Gold Saint. And in the Isekai universe of Darkwing, we meet the macabre Cancer Crematorium, whose name already says everything about what he does to his enemies. Number 5, Leo. The fifth house belongs to the Leo Saints, the fiercest warriors with fast fists and noble hearts. The classic Ioria of Leo is the proud bearer of lightning plasma, a hot-headed guy but extremely loyal, who suffered his whole life with the stigma of being the brother of the traitor Ioris. And in the Next Dimension canon, we are introduced to the imposing Kaiser of Leo, who literally fights alongside a gigantic pet lion that wears the armor called Golgi. But in the Lost Canvas, the lineage of Leo is pure poetry and blood. We have the young prodigy Leo Regulus, the boy who had the incredible gift of observing the opponent's technique just once and then copying it. In his final fight against Rhadamanthys, who had divine power, Regulus unleashed Athena's exclamation all by himself and, as if that wasn't enough, invoked the Cry of the Zodiac, unleashing the power of the 12 gold saints all at once. Before him, the armor belonged to his father, Leo Ilias, a man suffering from tuberculosis, but who had the mystical ability to communicate with nature, hearing the spirits of the forests and the earth. In episodes of Assassin, fans finally had their dream come true when Phoenix Icky was officially promoted, wearing the armor and becoming Leo Icky. In Omega, we meet Mycena of Leo, an honorable master who unfortunately followed bad orders out of blind loyalty. And even in Darkwing, the Golden Fury is represented by Asirios of Leo. Number 6, Virgo. The sixth house is untouchable. The Virgo saints are often considered holy due to their connection with divine beings. The supreme icon is Shaka of Virgo, the man who opened his eyes and removed his enemies' senses with his terrible treasure of heaven. He was the first saint of the modern era to awaken the eighth sense, the Araya Shiki, and transcend death to guide Athena in the underworld. In Next Dimension, the protector is Shijima of Virgo, the silent man. And to build up his immense cosmo, Shijima refrains from speaking and communicates only through telepathy, using the 4 gates of Buddha to annihilate intruders. In the Lost Canvas, we meet the majestic Asmita of Virgo, a saint who was born blind. Since he didn't need to close his eyes to build up his cosmo, his power level was tremendous. It was Asmita who sacrificed his own blood and life in deep meditation to create the Rosary of 108 beads, the only artifact capable of sealing the souls of Hades' specters, preventing them from resurrecting endlessly. And in Omega, we have the imposing Fudo of Virgo, who is not just a knight, but claims to be the literal reincarnation of the Buddhist deity Fudo Myo. In episode G, Assassin, the one who inherits the Virgo cloth, could be none other than the kind Shunji Andromeda, who, despite having a pacifist nature, is now a formidable doctor and gold saint in the alternate universe. And finally, in Darkwing, we are introduced to the mysterious figure of Renge of Virgo. Number 7, Libra. The 7th house of Libra is home to the warriors of absolute balance and the 12 weapons of the Zodiac. The legendary Doko of Libra, the Elder Master, is the most important of the entire franchise. As survivor of the 18th century war, he received from Athena the Misophetamenos, a divine technique that controls the aging of his body, allowing his heart to beat only 100,000 times a year. He sat for 243 years at the Rozan waterfall, guarding the seal of the 108 evil stars of Hades, only to reveal his youthful form in the Holy War and unleash the overwhelming wrath of the 100 dragons. Doko's legacy is so great that it was passed on to his best student, Dragon Shiryu, who becomes the official Libra saint, using his golden armor in the Omega Battles and Assassin episodes. Still in the Omega universe before Shiryu officially took on the armor, it was honored by Yenbu of Libra, a former disciple of Doko, who proved to be extremely heroic, sacrificing his own life to try to destroy the divine sword that threatened the world. Looking back at the past in the Lost Canvas, we discover the Dark Ichia of Libra, the 13th century saint who became the Grand Master, with such absurd power that he could control Libra's weapons telepathically from a distance. Ichia, tired of seeing wars repeat themselves and humanity not learning, loses hope and accepts an offer from the twin gods to become young again and try to take over the sanctuary with the power of the fairies from the underworld. And closing the Libra house in Sekai Isekai Darkwing, we have the strong and resilient Kogetsugi of Libra. Number 8, Scorpio. Arriving at the 8th house, we enter the domain of sadism and deadly needles. The classic Scorpio Miro is a true executioner of justice, famous for firing the Scarlet Needle, giving his enemies 15 chances to surrender before the final sting, the dreaded Antares. He had a very strong bond of friendship with Camus of Aquarius. And in Next Dimension, we are introduced to one of the most peculiar characters of all, Eckerlate of Scorpio. He has the unique and bizarre ability to become completely invisible. This happened because, as a child, he was stung by a celestial scorpion, which caused his body to collapse. He began to disappear, but was saved from certain death thanks to a blood transfusion from the legendary 13th Gold Saint. And in the Lost Canvas, we have the unmatched and chaotic Cardia of Scorpio. Unlike the others, Cardia suffered from a degenerative heart disease that made his heart burn at an absurd temperature. Instead of resting, he wanted to use this fever to fight, seeking a worthy opponent to have a glorious death on the battlefield. He used the Scarlet Needle Katakeo technique, literally setting his own heart on fire to melt the judge of the underworld, Adamantus, from the inside. In the sad plot of Omega, we see the former warrior and daughter of Mars, Sonia of Scorpio, a reluctant antagonist who was promoted to Gold Saint. The problem is that her Cosmo rejected the armor due to her own insecurities, which led her to explode with her own power. We also have Zafir of Scorpio from the 18th century in the Lost Canvas, a guy so desperate with the imminent war against Hades that he deserted the sanctuary to try to revive Poseidon on his own. And in the Darkwing universe, the one who reigns with the scarlet poison is Lalia of Scorpio. Number 9, Sagittarius. In the 9th house, the Sagittarius armor is not just protection, it is the ultimate symbol of loyalty to Athena. Eurus of Sagittarius in the classic is the great martyr of the story. He didn't have much screen time alive, but he was the man who discovered the Grand Master's betrayal, saved baby Athena, and escaped while being hunted as a traitor. Even after death, his soul lived on in the Sagittarius armor, sending the armor countless times to save Seiya's skin. And in the Lost Canvas, the leader of Athena's troops is Sisyphus of Sagittarius, a noble warrior who was so crushed by the guilt of having taken Athena Sasha's reincarnation from her siblings that his heart became corrupted with remorse. To prove his unwavering loyalty during the climax of the war, Sisyphus tore out his own eyes to reach the 8th sense and lead the army. In Next Dimension, Master Kuramada brought us Gestalt of Sagittarius, and man, his story is bizarre and tragic. Gestalt believed for years that he was a real centaur, half man, half horse, because when his pet horse died in his childhood, the 13th Night used his powers to create the illusion that Gestalt's body had fused with the horse's to ease his pain. And in future sagas, like Omega and Episode G, we finally see our eternal protagonist, Seiya of Pegasus, officially promoted to a gold saint, wearing the Sagittarius armor with overwhelming grandeur, and being revered as the greatest living legend of the sanctuary. And in the 16th century of the Lost Canvas, the guardian of the golden arrow goes by the name Aries of Sagittarius. Number 10, Capricorn. In the 10th house dwell the golden swordsmen. Shura of Capricorn from the classic series is known as the most loyal saint to Athena. Although the anime and the manga have different approaches, it was he who used Excalibur to fight against Euros. But later he realized his mistake and passed on his legacy and technique to the right arm of Dragon Shiryu. In Next Dimension, the guardian is Izu of Capricorn, a knight who follows a strict samurai code and possesses an Excalibur described as the sword that cuts demons. It is capable of slicing through anything. In the Lost Canvas, the B10 level reaches its peak with LL side of Capricorn. This man is the very definition of willpower. During the war, LL Cide had his arm cut off by one of the gods of dreams, Ixelos. Do you think he stopped to cry? Never. LL Cide used the bleeding stump of his own arm to forge a blade of pure, continuous Cosmo, turning his own body into the ultimate Excalibur. And he sliced nothing less than the four gods of dreams all by himself. He gets help from Sisyphus to defeat the fusion of the gods of dreams. In Omega, we meet Ionia of Capricorn. He is an elderly man, wielder of a book-based technique that manipulates the actions of enemies through words. And he betrays the sanctuary. And in Darkwing, we have the sharp Ado of Capricorn. Number 11, Aquarius. In the penultimate house, the cold takes over with the masters of icy execution. Camus of Aquarius is the cold and calculating master who, deep down, cared deeply for his pupil Ioga, engaging in a battle to the death in the house of Aquarius, just to force Ioga to awaken the absolute zero through the mythical Aurora execution. In Next Dimension, the Knight Mystoria of Aquarius follows the lineage of nobility and purity, demonstrating the classic eternal ice walls. In the Lost Canvas, we have Dagal of Aquarius, a scholarly knight, extremely intelligent and a lover of books, who set out for the icy city of Bluegrade to stop the overwhelming power of Poseidon and save his friend Cardia. Dagal used his last energies to freeze the entire underwater city of Atlantis, including himself in the coffin of eternal ice. But the greatest legend of Aquarius in this universe is Dagal's master, Crash of Aquarius. Crash lived for more than 500 years. He has taken part in holy wars since the 13th century and received the divine blood of Athena from his era to be able to use the Misophetaminos. And in Assassin episode, we see another bronze hero level up, Swan's own Yoga, who officially wears the Aquarius armor and fights with absolute zero across the multiverses. In Omega, we meet the arrogant villain Tokozada of Aquarius, who, unlike the control over ice, had powers focused on controlling time. In Darkwing, Tristan of Aquarius commands the Ice Eagle. Number 12, Pisces. In the last of the original 12 houses, those who protect the path to the Grand Master's Hall are the most beautiful knights. Aphrodite of Pisces fervently believed that absolute power was the only justice, which led him to support the tyranny of the Grand Master Saga. His royal demon roses, though beautiful, tear flesh, suck blood, and pulverize opponents. In Next Dimension, the androgynous Cardinale of Pisces follows a similar line of thought, betraying Athena right at the beginning by following the orders of the Grand Master, although he later tries to redeem himself. However, still in Lost Canvas, Pisces wins the hearts of fans with Albafica of Pisces. Albafica lived a life of extreme solitude because his own blood is a deadly poison. To protect the village near the sanctuary, he fought brutally against the powerful judge Minos of Griffin. Albafica had all the bones in his body broken by Minos' cosmic puppet technique, but in a final move, he put his own poisonous blood into a white rose and drove it into the chest of the judge of the underworld. Albafica's story becomes even sadder when we learn about his master, Rugonus of Pisces, who spent years dueling with the Crimson Elo, a poisonous blood exchange with the boy until Rugonus himself died so that Albafica could survive and gain immunity to poisons, becoming the new Pisces Knight. And in the controversial anime Omega, we have the wise and extremely powerful Aimer of Pisces, who, instead of roses, mastered dark magic and could summon the 4 celestial kings of Mars. And even in Darkwing, the character with this armor is Alfred of Pisces. Number 13, the 13th sign, Ophiuchus. Yes, my friends, there is a forgotten zodiac house that was between Scorpio and Sagittarius, belonging to the 13th gold saint, the sign of Ophiuchus or Serpentarius. In the mythological era, this saint was called Asclepius. His domain was not destruction, but healing. He possessed medicinal power so absolute, so divine, that he was able to heal any wound, any disease, and even bring people back from the dead. The problem is that by doing this, people stopped praying to the gods and began to worship Asclepius as a greater deity. The Olympian gods, furious at the arrogance of a mere mortal who challenged the cycle of life and death and wanted to become a god, erased his existence. They downgraded his armor to the silver rank, the same used by Shayna, and reduced the 13th house to ruins. But in Next Dimension, the story takes its toll. The soul of Asclepius resurfaces and reincarnates in a man named Odysseus of Ophiuchus. When Odysseus was young in the sanctuary, he was absolutely loved by all the gold saints. Because Odysseus never hesitated to sacrifice his own blood to save the lives of the children training to become gold saints. He died as a martyr, saving the lives of others. But he returns to life, being possessed by the soul of Asclepius in the Next Dimension saga, becoming the main enemy of Athena and the Bronze Saints in this saga. Did you enjoy meeting all the gold saints from the official Knights of the Zodiac universe? Leave a comment to let me know, and thanks for watching until the end. See you next time. Burn your Cosmo to infinity.